Remember to watch my Justice League Crisis on 2 Earths video. But for all you who are too lazy to watch it, a recap: Batman was blown up for the third time and kidnapped by the Court of Owls and tossed into the labyrinth. Now Owlman from Earth 3 survived Earth Prime and made it back to the normal universe. Now he plans on stealing Bruce's identity and starting it again. Bruce heads back to the manor and Alfred very sarcastically welcomes him back because it's clear that he knows that he's not the actual Bruce. Damien gets really scared seeing his real dad at first, but then he stands up straight and says, "Welcome, father." And Al Bruce says something like, "I'm back." Then the next day, Carrie walks in saying, "Bruce, someone's out for your job," and I think they got the religious vote, referencing Azrael in the Harley Quinn film, just as she notices Al Bruce. Alfred tries explaining that, because they're dealing with the multiverse, his appearance has changed. This might be a temporary thing, and walk off together and hide in a closet. And Alfred explains that, yeah, that's definitely not our Bruce. That's that other dimension's Bruce, Damien's father. We need to get rid of them. Real Bruce was investigating the Court of Owls, and I'm pretty sure they kidnapped him. And Damien opens the closet door, finding them, saying that he has no loyalties to his Bruce, and he's willing to help them. But if we're going to take on the court, we're going to need an army. And Carrie says, "We got an army of Robins." Alfred's unsure if they can get the past Robins, and all these new kids are disorganized. Carrie assures Alfred that he can get the old Titans, and they can train the new. She takes out her phone, showing a news report about the Titans, which, yes, I plan on rewriting Titans eventually. And they're fighting Adonis, and notably one of them is Rick Grayson. Alfred says, "We'll find him." Then we get a really cool opening credit intro. "All that I have and all that I love was stolen from me by a monster whose sole desire is my destruction. Without a care, without a thought, everything that I knew became a mystery, tainted by death and pure corruption. With the sharpness and harshness of an arrow bolt, I will find you and destroy your very soul. I think you know I'll chase you. I'll always chase you. You know I'll chase you. There'll be no escape. You run and I'll chase you. You hide and I'll chase you. We shall have justice and it's make or break. Your tenacity will be your doom. And that is why I'm always chasing you." Then we cut to the Titans hanging out, and Carrie comes in with a Batwing, saying that it's an urgent mission. The fate of the Earth is at stake. They need to find Bruce Wayne. And Beast Boy jokes, "Why? His private jet break down? He's the castaway?" And Rick hits him in the shoulder and says, "No, this is serious." And he goes with Carrie. Cutting to Bruce, he's wandering around the labyrinth, and he makes it to the center, finding a giant owl fountain. He knows he probably shouldn't drink from the water. It's most likely poisoned or drugged, but he has to because he's dying of thirst. He's talking his thoughts out loud, and he hears something, and he sneaks off into the shadows. He thinks he sees something, but he starts chasing him in the darkness. Then we cut to Duke Thomas, and he's walking down the streets, heading into the subway, where he finds some of his old Black Mask thugs, but now they're wearing Re-elect Lex merch. And one of them is ranting about how they're going to have to cleanse Gotham as a thanks to a wonderful leader like Lex, and purge this idiotic youth in their reverence of a vigilante like Batman. And know who's the real one keeping this country safe. The candidate for law and justice. And he starts sniffing, and he sees Duke Thomas. He's returned, and he's unpure in the eyes of Lex. And Duke is like, "Lex has done literally nothing but help the 1%. You know who's actually helping the smaller folk? We, or Robin." And he puts on a mask, and suddenly a bunch of people dressed like Robin jump in, including Tim Drake. And his suit's kind of like the Spider-Man Secret War, Civil War suit. It allows him to fly, it's kind of handmade, and it can also shoot metal feathers. This leads into a big fight scene, where there's some good nature ribbing between the different Robins, but then this gets spilled up into the street, and the cops arrive, and they start busting everyone, but the main Robins escape. Damon's about to leave until Al Bruce finds him, and he says he's just going to scout out this world for him. Al Bruce says thank you, explaining how Bruce left him stranded on Earth Prime frying the bomb, and Al Bruce really wanted revenge on him for stopping him. But luckily, Al Bruce never called off his scouts, and one of them found Earth Prime, and the audience sees that he bludgeons him and steals the portal gun, leaving him stranded. Al Bruce's plan is to just keep stealing normal Bruce's life, and eventually starting his plan all over again to blow up the multiverse. Damien agrees to it and leaves. We cut to a flashback of Jason Todd very shortly after the events of Under the Red Hood. He walks into a diner. On the TV, they're talking about the whole thing with the war at the junkyard and how the Robin gang is slowly growing, campaigning for police reform. Jason orders something, and the guy sitting next to him says, "Man, must have been a hell of a fight. I hear Big Red Hood and used to work for the Bat." Jason looks over confused, asking how does he know that, and he responds by saying, "Well, they kind of fight similarly. It must have been one of his old Robins. Not the little girl, I mean the one before her." You probably don't remember this because the media and all these kids these days like to romanticize him, but even the Robin went crazy like the Bat did. Just look at what he did to Crazy Quilt. "I'm sorry, how do you know about the Bat? Were you two friends?" Well, it's complicated. Back in my past life, I used to say we were the best of friends. But I'm a new man now. Had sense blasted back into me. I've been rambling about my past and writing about it. My therapist says it works. I'm not sure, but I like to think it does. What's your name again?" Jason stumbles and says J. Peter. And the other man introduces himself as Oswell White. Or at least that's what they used to call him before he got into his business too deeply. Jason says it's okay to tell him about it. He won't judge. Ozzy continues the story, saying that he used to be the head of a gang, one of the most feared men in the world. Around the early odds, me and two others, a criminal and a comedian, we became three with one identity, and I was just a clown. And he lifts his head up, and Jason and the audience can finally realize that he's Willem Dafoe Joker. Jason's eyes widen, and he has a flashback within a flashback, saying the clips from my Batman v Superman rewrite of him being whacked and blown up by the Joker. Shortly after his funeral, the Corps of Owls stole his body and resurrected Jason, beating and torturing him until he finally responds with his name, Jason Peter Todd. When asked, a courtier that sounds like Malcolm McDowell says, "Good. Your training begins." And they toss him in the labyrinth. He's there for several years, which feels like a century. It severely ages him. Cuts to 2019, and he's finally just giving up. He's being beaten to near death by a Talon. His courtiers cheer on and watch from the ceiling. And soon after, they come down and they start putting on a Talon outfit on Jason, saying that this is his destiny. But he gets a second wind and he just shoos them off. The Talon taunts him, but Jason just starts going beast on him, saying that he's sick to death of owls. Wailing on the Talon, he makes it back to the fountain, seemingly killing the other Talon. He also realizes there might be a river nearby given the sound by the fountain. And noting the different marbles, takes a knife from the other Talon, and he creates a spark, blowing up a hole in the ground. Stealing materials from the other Talon, he makes his escape. Jason eventually makes it back to the topside, Gotham, and he recognizes and realizes just how connected the Corps of Owls is to the world. So he realizes he needs an army, which is why he resurrected the Red Hood gang, a gang they used to strike the fear into Gotham before Batman took them out. Taking out the heads of the crime families of Gotham, who may or may not be connected to the Court of Owls, and taking their men to form an army to take out the Clown, as well as the Owls, until Batman stopped him. And cuts back to the flashback, and Ozzy's looking at Jason, saying that he's sorry for trauma dumping. He doesn't mean to talk that much about his past. He did some real terrible things that he's sorry for. But what's your problems? You can tell me. I won't judge either.
Boy Wonder.
Hello? I'm sorry.
Get on the ground, face down!
Hands behind your
do
head!
it now! Don't do anything stupid,
You're
man!
under arrest!
So Jason was sent to jail for the crime of killing Ozzy White. He finally got revenge on the man who took him away from his father. Was it worth it? Yes. Does he regret it? Also yes. Damien feels sad for Jason, and he says that he's here to bail him out, saying they need everyone they can possibly get to take on the Court of Owls. With Jason saying that you might know about the court from your world, but we're going to need someone who actually knows this world's court. I hate to work with him, but the Penguin knows all about the court. So Damien, using the Wayne funds, bailed both of them out. Meanwhile, Duke, Rico, and Tim Drake, they're talking, and they're complaining that last night, because of the actions, Rico's now going to Catholic school, but Duke says, oh, whatever, it's just going to blow over in a while. Well, everything will be fine. Just as a cop comes up and yells about Duke's shoes, and he's like, well, they're walkers, not runners. Walkers, I would never run, because running is suspicious. These are walking shoes, not Jordans. And then the cop pins him, likely story, Robin, get in. As Penguin and Co. walk by, and the Penguin slips the cop $100 to go away. And Damien says, Carrie says that Duke is a member of the Robins. Bring all of them you can get your hands on to the Iceberg Lounge. Then meanwhile, of Al Bruce and Alfred's comedically trying to get Al Bruce to not go into the Batcave and maybe even drugging some tea. Meanwhile, Bruce, he sees some courtiers, but then he gets knocked into a room by Talon. And this Talon takes off her mask, revealing that she's an Asian girl. Bruce tries talking to her, but she's unable to talk, and she just points out a camera in the room. With the Robins, they head to the Iceberg Lounge, and a bunch of the normal patrons there are screaming and freaking out that a bunch of filthy teenagers are coming into their lounge. And Duke is kind of weirded out by Damien, because what, is he 9? But all the main Robins show up to the Penguin.
Reformed, huh? I believe that when I see it. It is weird you did your time, though.
If you really want to go down this rabbit hole, you need to know there's no coming back from it.
Just tell me what I need to know. Gotham's elite keep getting a pass on Blackgate. But not you. So what? You forget the secret handshake?
They were favored. I wasn't.
Favored by...
But no one talks about them. Not a whispered word is said.
The Court of Owls is a myth.
Where the super rich go for shits and giggles. Might be worth a peek. Personally, I stay far away from that raptor's nest.
Penguin explains the court as the camera with Bruce starts projecting a video explaining the court as well, and we cut back and forth between them. But I'm also bad at talking, so here's a better video explaining.
In the early days of Gotham, namely 1865 to 1866, some wealthy slave owners in the Confederate U.S. moved north with their wealth once it became obvious that the Confederate States would lose the Civil War. They settled in Gotham City to start their new life, but it did not take long for them to realize that they were still viewed negatively by many. This was mainly due to their white nationalist beliefs and tendencies. They did not want to change their ways, and they sought to find new avenues in which to continue living their deplorable lifestyle. They formed the Owl Creek Country Club, exclusively for the wealthy elite. In a mixture of European tradition and New World ambitions, they chose the owl god Moloch as their symbol. They would perform ceremonies and rituals to the god. They didn't care about gender. Men and women were allowed membership alike, but they maintained their all-white policy. Membership was very demanding. Owl Creek expected its constituents to donate 15% of their wealth upon their deaths. Each member, upon their acceptance into the group, was given a white mask shaped like the face of a barn owl. They valued longevity of wealth highly, and shunned anyone who would threaten that. Their reach was far and wide. While their base of operations was Gotham, they allegedly had other chapters throughout the U.S., would be the owl god Moloch found in the dollar bill as a result of the court's influence. One of the ways they lived this longevity of wealth out was by constantly seeking investments in a number of things. One such investment was in the new and quickly growing Nazi Party in Germany. Many other wealthy Americans also donated to them, such as Henry Ford, who may have been a member of the court. It is rumored that another chapter of the court helped fund the 1939 Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden years later. Charles Sionis was one of Owl Creek's denied prospects. One of the most horrendous and deplorable practices of the Court of Owls was its process for creating and training Talons. Talons were the foot soldiers and muscle for the court. They carried out thefts, assassinations, and general dirty work for Owl Creek. The creation of these Talons was degrading. The court would press gang black men into indentured servitude, brainwash them, and turn them into weapons. If the members of the club were to be the Court of Owls, they would need Talons to execute their will. During the daytime, these brainwashed men were groundskeepers at the Owl Creek Country Club, but under cover of night, they would carry out the missions mandated to them by the court.
Jason starts having like a panic attack, saying that they were trying to turn me into one of their zombies. He starts freaking out, thinking that's what they're trying to do to Bruce. Karen and Rick try comforting Jason, saying that they'll stop them. As Penguin continues,
the court considered itself the ultimate authority in Gotham, and this is why the appearance of the Batman infuriated them. They had been previously uncontested in their business until the Bat began to unknowingly dismantle the system they had spent decades building. They had successfully made Gotham dependent on them without the city even realizing it. The Batman represented a threat to them, and they began to see the city become more independent, more free of their grasp. The court dreaded the loss of power that seemed to be on the horizon, and so they deemed it necessary to hatch a new plan.
And Damian's like, alright, we gotta hatch our own plan to get Bruce back. And with Bruce, he starts freaking out about the tape, knocking it away. He starts hallucinating about like a wooden ship. He starts screaming to stop it, stop it. This is his story. He knocks over the camera again, starts freaking out, hearing voices. And with the Robins, they explain that Rick is the original Robin, and all you need to learn to actually be proper Robins. And they start training. There's some interactions with everyone, with Rick explaining to everyone that he left Bruce to protect him. And Rick and Jason interact, and it's weird because they had different upbringings with the same dad. But both of them think Carrie's a worthy successor to the Robin title. While Damian's a little more of a problem child, everyone's confused about how young he is, and how Jason died because he wanted to protect his father. Jason might not like Damian. But Rick thinks that Duke is a great successor to Robin as well, leading his own team of people trying to make the world better.
You'll be dead soon, you know.
Huh?
Siggy, the bat signal. You've been running him hot all week. You gotta blow his bulb.
Yeah. Leave it on, Harvey.
I hate to say it, Commissioner, but it's been 8 days. The bat isn't coming. Leaving the light on for him just...
It's not just for him, Lieutenant Bullock. It's for the scum who think Gotham's a damn playground now. It's for the other guys, too. The ones on our side. The ones who are hurting. Because they know him. The man underneath that mask. The man that's missing right now. Hell, it's for the whole damn city, Lieutenant. So like I said, the light stays on.
As we see Bruce head into the darkness, and after a day of training, one of the Robins is walking home, and he gets jumped by a Talon. They know what's going on. Meanwhile, with Bruce, he steps on an egg. He sees Martha and Thomas. What? He hugs them. He's like, Mom, Dad. And they're talking to him, but it's clear that it's an illusion as their shooter comes out of nowhere and then shoots some owls at Bruce, which start tearing him apart, just for him to wake up next to the fountain. The female Talon is watching and notices Bruce kind of freaking out, and we can tell they're not enjoying looking at this, as Bruce finds a loose tile and he hops in, but it just sends him to another room. He's yelling no, starts hearing the voices, they just give in, and he starts yelling, I'm not listening, I'm not listening, as a Talon that sounds like Malcolm McDowell stabs him in the back, saying that he belongs to the court, serve or die. As we cut back to the bat signal and it explodes from overheating. What should we do with it now? Fix it. Now. I said now. Now, please. Gordon tries comforting the little Robin, saying that it's okay, Batman will reemerge sometime. But Damian says they know Batman's in trouble and they need help. The court has him. And some of the cops realize what's going on and look at him weird. Then back with the other Robins, their training is complete. They come up with a plan to split up. Rick and Duke will stalk around the Owl Creek Country Club. Tim and Jason will lead a group under the catacombs the way Jason escaped the first time, and Carrie will sneak into the building itself claiming to be Miss Kettle Potts' granddaughter to distract everyone, and they head out. Rick trusts Duke enough to take him to the Batcave to resupply. Carrie has a little trouble with the front security guy, David Kane, but she's managed to get in, and Miss Cobblepot is a crazy old lady in a wheelchair, ranting and raving any racial slur we can get away with in a PG-13 DC film, but she is crazy enough to believe Carrie, and they try to distract them as the other Robins are sneaking around the outside, trying to stealth take out the landscapers who are secretly Talons. But then back at Wayne Manor, Alfred's been stabbed in the shoulder and he's bleeding out on the ground. Rick tries stopping this and Alfred screams that Owlman's made it into the cave. So they patch up Alfred and head down there, and seeing Owlman at the computer, he puts his hood on and smoke grenades out as they hear a bunch of Talons bashing on a door. Back with Bruce, the Malcolm McDowell Talon says that if he doesn't just join them and become a Talon, his bones will be displayed, an honor only awarded to 3 others in history. Bruce keeps refusing and getting beaten pretty bad as Bruce realizes he's being watched by different courtiers from the ceiling. In his hallucinations, they keep turning into monstrous owl people, and one of them that's only a kid says, "Hurt him more." The female Talon tries pulling away the Malcolm McDowell Talon, just for the security guard from earlier to yell at her, "Cassandra, you have to do this. This is what you were born to do, to serve the Court of Owls." Outside the country club, a bunch of new Talons are attacking the Robins, so they go into plan B and just rush their way inside. Carrie knocks over Miss Cobblepot and throws away her wheelchair, running off, changing into a Robin costume. There's some fighting with Jason and Tim. They're also fighting in the catacombs, and definitely a bunch of Robins do get killed by Talons. With Duke and Rick, they're in the Batcave, and Owlman's there still. He's about to shoot them with some of his Talon blades, but then Alfred pushes the giant penny on top of him. And then because of a bunch of mumbo-jumbo and detectiving, Tim realizes that the Talons are slowing down in the catacombs because it's colder. So that's how they defeat the Talons. They need to get really cold. Alfred suits up, and we see the door the Talons are at open up. And Alfred, in a giant robot bat suit, says, "Get the hell out of my house." And he squares off with the Talons, and the giant suit's actually doing pretty well. But also, the Talons are also pretty skilled. And it's just total chaos for a while. As Rick gets the Batcave really, really cold and the Talons start slowing down, and Alfred uses some ice batarangs. He starts stopping them, but then the Talons start slashing pretty bad. So Duke activates the mechanical T-Rex, and it actually helps out. Cass decides to flee during all this chaos, as the main Robins make it into the labyrinth. With Cass really turning down the heat of the place, they blast a hole into the ceiling leading into the rest of the country club. As the Talon's healing factor slows down because of the cold, and suddenly a bunch of bats enter the labyrinth. Everyone's kind of confused, but Bruce getting up says simply, they were hiding deeper in the caves, in the darkest parts, the parts the owls couldn't tolerate. And when the bats come back, it was with a vengeance. Carrie found Bruce's utility belt, he puts it on, and there's some frozen batarangs. Conveniently, he starts stomping the Talon who was messing him up, along with Jason, and they hug, and it's still kind of awkward because, what happened with them. And they find Miss Cobblepot taking her mask off, tossing her away, and she's like, "You haven't won yet," as they leave her locked in the elevator, and they head to deal with the head of the court. They run up and find them all, poisoned. David Kane sees all this, thinking that Batman did it, and he shoots at him, but Jason takes the bullet for him. Cass starts thinking back to her past when she was forced to be a Talon from a young age, as Cass stabs David Kane in the arm. Cutting to later, Bruce now really messed up. He's talking with Alfred, and Bruce is still questioning who took out the head of the court and drained their bank accounts. Well, Alfred says we'll figure it out in time, but for now you need a rest. For now, not everything needs a open and shut case. As narrator Bruce tells us about how the labyrinth was destroyed, the court might still be out there, but their main base has been taken out, and all their Talons were sent to be rehabilitated, especially that Cassandra Cain. Rick and Bruce reunited and explained the situation. Jason's still not forgiven himself of what he did, kind of became a drifter. Penguin is supposedly sticking to being reformed. He also does take a blind eye to whoever enters his lounge. And Duke Thomas has upgraded from Robin to Signal, the new leader of the We Are Robin movement, now officially endorsed by Batman himself. In post-credits, we see that Owlman survived, and he drops something off at the Oval Office, which Lex Luthor sees, and it's labeled List of Contingency Plans for the Justice League. As Owlman meets up with Professor Pig asking for a facial reconstruction under a fake name, Thomas Elliot. But what do you guys think? You think this was an okay story? Do you hate it? How could have I done it any better? Let me know in the comments below, and when you're down there, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button.